This was a Q&A that we recorded last week on our monthly Q&A. So if you are signed up for the free Conscious Parenting Academy, you have access to that. And we actually recorded it, but it did not record. There was a glitch. So I thought I would come on and go over some of the questions again that were emailed in. Some of the parents got to participate live last week, so I can't obviously re-record that. But I can go over the questions because I thought it was really important. There were a couple of things that were really important that I want to talk to you guys about, because no matter what question we have about our kids, about the challenges that we're having with our children, there's one thing that is so important to think about that we rarely think about. We overlook it. We don't even think that it's part of the challenges that we're having. And what I want to tell you today is that it's so very much a part of the challenges that we're having, and it really can help us shift out of conflict and into more peaceful ways of resolving that conflict. So conflict that has us butting heads with our kids or power struggles, because that's not what we want, right? So I have a couple of questions that were emailed in. We have a question about a parent who is losing their temper a lot. This is with their 8-year-old child, but no matter what age your kids are, I'm sure that you have that experience of losing your temper. I know I have. I do not do this work because I'm a perfect parent. There's no such thing. I do not do this work because I'm even super skilled at it all the time. I really do this work because I want to break the cycle that I grew up with, and I want to break that chain of disrespect and of broken relationships and of disconnection that I grew up with. I want to break that cycle in my house. But it means that I mess up a lot, and this is by no means to tell you guys to try to be perfect. I'm also not going to advocate that we just, let it all hang out and that we yell whenever we want, and we just let it go. It just means that, yeah, we're going to yell, we're going to mess up, and when we do, we go back and we have an opportunity to repair with our kids. So we have a parent who's losing their temper a lot. We have a parent with a little one, an almost 4-year-old, 3.5-year-old, who is insisting on having their own way and has big emotions and feeling a little bit aggressive. Anybody have a younger child that is experiencing some of those emotions and needs autonomy and wanting to have their way kind of thing? We have that. And then we have a parent with some older kids. So even if you don't have little kids, how can we start to change the communication with older children? This is a parent who has grown children but wants to know how she can start to build that bridge, make communication open up, an open line of communication with children who are past the age where we can really tell them what to do. So if you have any of those experiences or similar experiences, today I want to talk to you. But what I want to first know, let's talk about this, about losing our temper. We all lose our temper, you guys. This is just life. Anger is an important emotion that tells us that we don't like something, that something isn't right, that we need to make something different or alter the way we see it or what's happening, maybe a relationship between two people. So we have an 8-year-old, a parent is losing their temper, and the 8-year-old's talking back. I lose my temper easily on my 8-year-old daughter if she doesn't listen to me. She is an amazing kid, but I still want to improve her behavior. Just think about that, right? We have needs just right there. I want to improve her behavior. So let's think about the need that's really connected to that. I want us to always go back and think about a couple of things. One, our needs, right? What do I really need in this situation? What is a parent who is concerned about their child's behavior? And this parent also says, I don't want my child to have any problems later on in life when I'm not there, right? We all think about that moment when we're not there to help our kids. How are they going to respond? These are really important things, but we want to think about, what is it that I need in this moment? What is really important to me before we get to the child's behavior? So what might a parent be feeling in this moment? Maybe acceptance. When our kids don't show the appropriate behaviors and situations, we may feel judged by the people around us. So we might be looking for some acceptance that we are doing a good job. Sometimes we just want to be appreciated for all that we're doing for our children. It can be so frustrating. We give up so much for them, right? So the need for appreciation does not mean that your child has to fulfill that need, but it also doesn't mean that it's not valid. But if we can recognize that, sometimes when we look at our kids and they're talking back, we see them as the problem. But if we can recognize that I have a need for respect or for appreciation, then I can take care of that. I can recognize that in myself, and then I can go forward and help my child then show better behaviors, because I've already recognized, okay, this isn't, my need for appreciation has nothing to do with their need for me to help them through this behavior. So we can separate out the two. So now I can come in and say, I don't like being spoken to like that, but I can tell that you feel this is unfair. Do you want to talk about this? If you want to tell me how angry you are, I'm here to listen. That goes so much further than when the child talks back saying, how dare you disrespect me? I set my limit. You should know better, and all that kind of stuff that just has us butting heads and setting us up for power struggles. But if we never recognize that need that we have for appreciation or for acceptance from the onlookers in our lives, like our parents or our peers or other people that are watching us discipline our children, sometimes that need to just be accepted by the group has us forcing our children to change, but change in a way that doesn't support them in either building their skills, in supporting the relationship, the connection that they might be missing, or supporting them in helping them reduce their stress level. So remember, whenever we do look at behavior, after we take care of our own needs, what we can do to help our kids is go in and look at that through that three-pronged behavior lens that I talk about all the time if you've listened to any of my videos before. So it's support, stress, and skills. How can I make a better connection with this child? Are they perhaps pushing back because they feel like we are disconnected, like I haven't been listening, like they're overpowered and they don't feel like they have a say? Sometimes that's about building the connection and then behavior shifts. Or is it that this child is super dysregulated and they can't control their emotions right now, so I have to help them on regulating the stress before we can work on them building their skills? So support, stress, and then their skills. After we make that connection, after we regulate that stress, then we can move into, what skill am I working on right now? What skill is it that I need to help my child with? Is it that they need help with expressing themselves? Is it that they need, again, better ways to regulate that stress? So they're all working in connection. But can you go in and figure out what you need? Take care of that. Say, okay, I know that I need appreciation. I'm not going to put it on my kid to do that for me. Now, here's the thing. Just because we don't rely on our children to fulfill our needs does not mean that we can't ask for them to participate, right? It doesn't mean that we can't ask for them to contribute to our needs. You can say, I really don't feel good when we speak to each other like this. Would you be willing to wait, come back? Let's talk again after dinner. Would you be willing to share with me in a different way how you're feeling about this? There's so many ways that we can connect with our kids. But when we're losing our temper, when we feel like we're losing our temper, that means that something in us is also in need of attention. Our own dysregulation, our own connection. So before you can even connect with that young child, you have to be able to regulate your own stress. We have to be able to walk away. Deep breathing. I recommend this. People say, what do I do when I get so angry? Walk away and breathe. You don't have to do much, you guys. And I know they're saying, it's so hard, I can't breathe. You can when you practice. I swear, when you practice walking away and breathing, as long as nobody is in danger of getting hurt, walk away before you approach those children, especially the little kids. Because when we're so dysregulated, walking into little children can incite even more. I mean, it's going to exacerbate the situation regardless usually. But with little children, they can become so dysregulated that they lose control, thinking, oh, well, if mom and dad can't keep it together, well, then how can I keep it together, right? So they don't have the ability that maybe a teenager does to walk away from that stressful moment. So then it just gets everybody spiraling. All right, let's talk about the 4-year-olds, almost 4. We have 3.5-year-old, almost 4-year-old. All right, tell me if this sounds familiar to anybody with a child in that 3-4-year-old range, right? Insisting on choice, insisting on his or her own way, big emotions, might be aggressive, and unable to put the brake on their behavior, on those big emotions. Does that sound familiar? Okay, if that sounds familiar, it's because you have a perfectly typical 3.5 or 4-year-old. This is a very common time where it's like my way or the highway. I want it done. I want it now. I don't want to wait. So these parents are wondering, how do we deal with all this? And they they talked about a particular situation where the little one had an accident, right? And so she didn't want to get in the shower, and she didn't want to, she wanted to go into her bedroom and only get it done, only get cleaned up there. And it just became sort of a back and forth. And mom and dad were trying to be really logical and let her know that you can get cleaned up in the bathroom or you can take a shower, but we have to do it here. We can't go in the bedroom. And they tried to let her know that we love her and that we're going to help you. And they did all of these really important things, like be empathetic to her feelings. But there's one thing that I really noticed, that if maybe mom and dad had just taken a second to step back and think about what do we need in this moment, maybe they could have shifted the situation a little bit faster. Because what happened is it took a really long time and there was a lot of don't talk to me and pushing them away and refusal and all of this. Now, sometimes that's just normal, right? Sometimes our kids just take some time to get through the moments. But there were some things that they did that I thought that was really interesting. And one of those things was they gave a lot of logic. They tried to reason with her. They thought if we shared why we couldn't get changed in the bedroom, it was messy, we need to clean up, we need to use the wipes, all these kinds of really great and important adult ideas, adult perspectives. They thought that if they shared that with her, that she would understand. And then that would help her calm down because they loved her and they had her best intentions. But what happened? What do you guys think happened? Of course, what happened is it just escalated and she pushed back and she pushed and pushed and pushed. And mom and dad were like, why? We ended up having to force her into the shower and force her into the bedroom to change and all of these things. So how can we avoid that? The first thing we want to do is, again, check in. What do I need in this moment? Now, I think some of the things that maybe a parent that's looking to clean up an accident that our children have had, perhaps just to keep things clean and orderly. I mean, who wants to have a child that's all messy running around the house or touching things or going into the bedroom and perhaps making a bigger mess, right? So our need for order and cleanliness is absolutely important here. That may have been pushing our need to reason with a very small child on why we couldn't do the cleanup in a certain room or why we had to do it here. Here's the thing, you guys, don't try to reason with our little kids. Sometimes giving information is great and they will respond to that. But if that is just escalating the situation, if that is setting the child off even more, then we know that, it's not reasoning, it's not information that they're looking for. It's really that they're just having trouble coping in this moment. There were also a couple of things that mom and dad told me. Now, one thing, this child is a child that's just perhaps highly sensitive. They get set off really easily. They shared some other things in their question that definitely suggested that this is a child that is highly sensitive. But again, a 3.5-year-old, they are sensitive. They are highly emotional. They are extremely particular about certain things. Now, again, every kid is different, right? So if you don't have a kid that's particular, that doesn't mean that your 3-year-old is ahead of the curve or behind the curve. It just means that you have a different kid, and that's perfectly okay too. But what do we do with a little one that is set off easily? Now, one thing that mom and dad tried to do is they tried to give choice. But what happened was they gave a choice that was, you can get dressed, we can do it in the bathroom, or we can take a shower. And they wrote that they gave the choice of the shower because they know that she doesn't like to shower, that she only likes to shower at night because somehow she associates that with bedtime. So what did they do? They gave a choice, but it wasn't really a choice. It was sort of like, here's a choice that we know you're not going to choose because you don't like that. And here's the choice we really want you to choose. Kids are smart, they're gonna see through stuff like that. So I would say don't give a choice unless you're really giving a choice that is two options, that you're not trying to manipulate your child into just choosing one of them. One, because it just probably won't work. Sometimes, kids are like, oh, okay, I have that. I have an alternative and that works for me. But here's the thing. This choice was connected to something that we knew the child didn't like to do during the day, right? Why is a shower for her connected to bedtime? Who knows? But if she were to get a shower at that moment, which they ended up having to do, that may have then to signal to her brain the fear of, oh no, they're going to put me to bed because now I'm getting a shower and now I think I'm going to bed. So it's very possible that she actually perceived this idea because she associates showering with bedtime, that she thought she was going to go to bed after. So that may have also escalated the situation. Because then she went into the room and mom and dad, and she was saying, no, and you go over there and look sad. She was trying to ask dad to look sad, which I also thought was really interesting because our kids try to communicate with us in the best way that they know how. And mom and dad were confused by this. But what does that mean? Well, a young child telling you to look sad probably, now again, every kid is different, but very much might suggest that they want you to know what it feels like for them. They want you to show on your face how they're feeling in a way that they want to say, I want you to recognize me. I want you to feel me. I want to know that you understand me. So those are just some ideas of what we can do when we're looking at a child's behavior and going, what does this mean? We want to think about what is it communicating, about how they feel, about the resources that they have to meet their needs in a situation. You know, she felt really out of control and she wanted just maybe some acknowledgement for that. Basically, I think mom and dad did the best they could, right? They were empathetic. They gave her the best choices that they thought, but they stayed kind. They stayed compassionate. So that was a really great move. But just to make it a little bit easier on you, maybe not reason so much, because you don't have to do that. Sometimes you just have to take the child into the area where you need to do it and let them have all those big emotions and let them fall down on the ground and cry. And then you wait and you go, you know, I'm here for you. If you want to sit on my lap, I'm here. I'm going to help you. I'm going to help you get dressed. Maybe even giving them the option, if we couldn't go into the bedroom, is there a way that we could go into the bedroom? You know, can you help me with this big sheet and we'll lay it down and then we can go in the bedroom and get dressed. So sometimes there's a way to meet our needs for, if it was order and cleanliness and keeping the situation contained, because, you know, a bathroom mess can quickly escalate with a young child. Is there a way that we can meet our need without having to put that on our children? So the idea is that sometimes when we're looking to control our children's behavior, it's not because we're worried about them. It's because we feel unsure. We don't know how to take care of ourselves in that moment. So we try to change them and change their behavior so then we feel more confident or more successful getting through that moment. Or it takes less time. We think it'll take less time, but sometimes it does not take less time, as we know. So remember, support, stress, and skills. How can I make a connection? Does my child need support? Do they need a sensory tool to help them get regulated? Do they need a hug? You know, young children definitely benefit by our presence, but sometimes they might need a quiet place. Because think about, what was this child going through in that moment? That's the other thing, right? We want to think about our needs, but also what is their behavior communicating? What need is their behavior communicating? She might have been embarrassed, right? And she might have been pushing you away or wanting to do it in her bedroom, wanting to have that get changed in that moment in her bedroom, because her bedroom is the place where she is comfortable and where it's private. And that, you know, we know that we go in the bedroom to change our clothes. And that may have been something that she wanted to do by herself. She might have wanted to feel like a big girl and autonomous and capable and competent. And sometimes needs are not in conflict, but the strategies that we're using, right? That behavioral choice that we want. You do this in the bathroom. No, I want to do it in the bedroom. Those strategies that we had were in conflict, but the needs are valid. So if we can separate out what's really going on, it can help us find that resolution and help our kids a lot sooner and a lot faster, do that a lot faster. Okay, let's talk about the last parent. So this is a parent who has older children, adult sons, and she wants to know, how do I communicate with them after all of these years where maybe I was parenting a little bit differently, maybe not as close and connected and compassionate and conscious in our communication, but how do we get to that place where we now have to communicate with our adult kids in that way? So I want you guys to do the same thing. I want you to think about, what is it that the parent might be needing in this situation? Or you, if this is you, if you want a better relationship with your children and maybe they're a little bit older, maybe they're teenagers or adult children like this parent, what is it that you're needing, right? It's not that I want you to communicate with me. I want you to talk to me. I want you to come to dinner. I want you to sit with us as a family. I want to have family dinners and connection and game night and all these things that we might suggest to our children, right? These strategies to meet a need. But what's our need? What is it that we really want from our kids, and especially from our adult children? Maybe closeness, right? Just feeling that connection and closeness with an older child. That is a valid need that we may express by insisting that they sit at the dinner table, or insisting that they stop going to their room and shutting the door and not coming out except for dinner. Those are ways where they may feel that we're trying to push our agenda, or we're trying to push our opinion or our ideas. Instead, if we were to go up and share with our children, then I just want to feel like that we can communicate and that we're close again. That's, I think, what I'm really looking for. Then when we say to our kids, I think when I ask you to come and have dinner, it's because I want to feel our closeness again. That goes so much further than just demanding or insisting or begging or nagging that they do something that we want, right? So closeness, consideration, that's another one. So if we have adult children or older children that have responsibilities like taking out the trash or doing certain chores around the home, and maybe they're not doing that, and we want to be able to communicate effectively without, again, nagging or insisting. But again, when we come in and we say things like, I've asked you multiple times to please, shut the door when you come in at night, or lock the door, or take out the trash, or clean up after yourself, or do the dishes, all of these things we might get some pushback because it doesn't exactly sound, it just sounds like another request, and perhaps the child is already overwhelmed with other things on their mind. That doesn't mean that your request is invalid. It just means, how can we connect so that I can share my needs and then move to a resolution that works for everybody, right? So this isn't about coddling children. It's about, how can I be respectful of what's going on for you in a way that makes you also want to be respectful of what's going on for me. So if we have a need for closeness, instead of saying, I want you to come to dinner, I need you to sit with us every night at dinner, if we shared with our children that, I miss you, I want to feel close to you again, would you be willing to have dinner with us twice a week? Would you be willing to have game night with us? There are ways to ask our kids for cooperation and consideration. If they're shutting the door, we can say, I feel sad when you shut the door, and it feels like I'm getting shut out. I know that's probably not what it is. I think maybe you need privacy. But if we could find a way that we could connect and talk again, I would appreciate that. That is such an invitation that is so much more open and inviting than, I wish that you would come to dinner. I don't know why you have to stay in your room all the time, right? That just feels like that doesn't feel like we want to engage. That just feels like we want to control somebody's life, right? Nobody is going to necessarily feel good about that. They're not going to want to engage with us if that's what they feel like. But if we're concerned about how their mood or what's going on, or if we're worried about that they're feeling depressed or their mental state, we can, instead of insisting that they spend time with us or come out of their room, or not, hide in their room and label it and judge it, you're hiding out. If we say, I'm asking because I'm concerned and I care about you, and I want to feel connected to you. Can we share those needs with our kids instead of just sharing our ideas for what we want their behaviors to change? Because then what we do, they'll probably come up with ideas for their behaviors. When we say, if we want to share about the chores that aren't getting done, instead of saying, I've asked you to, take out the trash, or I've asked you to please lock the gate when you come in and it never gets done, kind of thing. How can we share that in a way that shares our needs? My need is to keep everybody safe and to make sure everything's locked up at night so that I can go to bed and feel peaceful sleeping. Would you be willing to maybe set up some kind of a reminder or a note for yourself so that you remember to lock the door? Or I really want to make sure that the trash doesn't sit out in the yard all week. Would you be willing to get it to the curb on time? Is there a way that I can help you remember this? If we go in and we're looking to make a connection with our kids and ask them how we can help, tell them that we care, share, again, our needs, if we can identify those needs, it'll go a lot further, I think, towards getting the answers and the connection that we want from our kids. And that communication, building those bridges to communication, to effective, conscious communication, of course. All right, that was my teachable moment for you. I hope that you found that helpful. And if you did, please like, share, and subscribe for more videos just like this. And join me in my Facebook group where there are plenty of conscious parents to connect with and get more ideas like this. Until next time, please remember, it's about being conscious, not perfect.